College life, ramen noodles, endless studying, and for me, a side of pepperoni pizza delivery. That was how I funded my caffeine addiction and late-night study sessions. My name is Jake, and this is the story of the night my part-time gig turned into a waking nightmare. My trusty 98 Corolla became my second home. Every night I'd navigate the maze of suburban streets, each delivery address a new line on my mental map. The job was simple: pick up, deliver, repeat. The pay wasn't much, but it was honest work. Most nights were uneventful. I'd encounter the usual cast of characters: tired parents, giggly teenagers, and the occasional insomniac in desperate need of a midnight snack. Each encounter was brief, transactional, and utterly forgettable, until that one night. The night the monotony was shattered, and my world tilted on its axis. The pizzeria, Tony's Pizza Pies, was buzzing with the usual Friday night chaos. The air was thick with the aroma of baking dough and oregano. I leaned against the counter, scrolling through my phone as I waited for my next order. "Order up for Jake!" Tony, the owner, bellowed from the kitchen. I grabbed the steaming pizza box and checked the delivery slip. The address was unfamiliar, located on the outskirts of town. "That's new," I muttered under my breath. I shrugged it off, attributing it to the ever-expanding suburban sprawl. Outside, the air was heavy with humidity. A storm was brewing, the sky a bruised canvas of purple and gray. Lightning flickered in the distance, illuminating the approaching darkness. I got into my car, the familiar warmth of the engine a comforting presence. As I drove, the houses thinned out, replaced by dense woodland. Streetlights became scarce, plunging the road into an eerie darkness punctuated only by my headlights. The GPS guided me deeper into the unknown, a sense of unease creeping into my gut. The GPS announced my arrival. I pulled up to a dilapidated Victorian mansion, its silhouette a jagged outline against the stormy sky. The paint was peeling and the windows were dark, like empty eyes staring back at me. A shiver ran down my spine. This place felt different, wrong. It was as if the house itself was watching me, its silence both deafening and ominous. I double-checked the address, a knot of apprehension tightening in my stomach. I grabbed the pizza box and made my way up the creaking porch steps. The air grew heavy, thick with the smell of damp earth and something else I couldn't quite place. It was an unsettling scent, ancient and vaguely metallic. As I reached for the doorbell, a sudden gust of wind slammed the front door open with a deafening bang. I jumped back, my heart pounding in my chest. I peered into the darkness, my hand hovering over the pepper spray attached to my keychain. Silence. Only the sound of my own ragged breathing filled the air. I hesitated, torn between caution and the need to complete the delivery. "Hello?" I called out, my voice barely a whisper. No answer. But I could have sworn I saw a flicker of movement in the shadows at the back of the house. Taking a deep breath, I stepped inside, the floorboards groaning under my weight. The air inside was stale and heavy, thick with the scent of dust and decay. Cobwebs draped the furniture like ghostly shrouds, and the only light came from the flashes of lightning illuminating the dusty windows. "Delivery!" I called out again, my voice echoing through the empty house. Still no answer. I made my way through the foyer, my senses on high alert. Each creak of the floorboards, each rustle of the wind against the windows, sent a jolt of adrenaline through me. I felt a presence, something unseen, watching me from the shadows. I found myself in what appeared to be the living room. A grand fireplace dominated one wall, its hearth cold and empty. As lightning flashed, I caught a glimpse of a portrait above the mantelpiece. It was a woman in a long, flowing gown, her eyes seeming to follow my every move. Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream pierced the silence. I jumped, dropping the pizza box to the floor. The scream seemed to come from upstairs, echoing through the empty house. Panic surged through me, cold and sharp. I had to get out of there, but a strange compulsion, a morbid curiosity, rooted me to the spot. I slowly made my way toward the staircase, my hand gripping the pepper spray so tightly my knuckles turned white. Each step up the creaking stairs was an exercise in terror. The screams continued, each one more harrowing than the last. The air grew colder, the smell of decay stronger, as if I were approaching the source of something rotten. At the end of the hallway, a single door stood ajar, the screams emanating from within. I approached cautiously, my heart pounding in my ears. With trembling hand, I pushed the door open. The room was dimly lit by a single flickering candle. A figure lay huddled on the floor, their back to me. The screams had stopped, replaced by a low, guttural sobbing. "Are you okay?" I asked, my voice trembling. The figure slowly turned, their face illuminated by the candlelight. It was a young woman, her eyes wide with terror, her face streaked with tears. "Help me," she whispered, her voice hoarse. "He's trapped me here." "Who?" I asked, my eyes darting around the room, searching for the source of her fear. She pointed a trembling finger towards a full-length mirror on the far wall. "He's in there. He's been trapped for years, and now he wants to take me with him." I turned towards the mirror. My breath caught in my throat. Staring back at me wasn't my own reflection, but the face of a man, his features twisted in a grotesque mockery of a smile. His eyes, burning with a cold, malevolent light, met mine, and then he spoke. Finally, the reflection rasped, his voice a chilling whisper that seemed to slither from the depths of the mirror. A way out. I stumbled back, fear paralyzing me. The woman cowered behind me, her sobs growing louder. The reflection in the mirror began to move, reaching out towards me with a spectral hand. Adrenaline surged through me, snapping me out of my stupor. I spun around, grabbing the woman's hand, and pulled her towards the door. As we ran, I could hear the reflection's laughter echoing behind us, cold and mocking. We raced down the stairs, each step a desperate scramble for freedom. The house seemed to press in on us, the air growing colder, the darkness more oppressive. I could hear the heavy thud of footsteps behind us, gaining ground. I burst through the front door and into the storm, the woman close behind me. Rain lashed at our faces as we ran towards my car, the reflection's laughter echoing in our ears. I fumbled with my keys, my fingers slick with rain and terror. I threw the car door open and we tumbled inside. As I reversed out of the driveway, I cast one last glance at the house. The reflection was gone, but the feeling of dread lingered, heavy and suffocating. I drove through the night, the rain a relentless torrent against the windshield. The woman, her breathing ragged, huddled in the passenger seat. I didn't know her name, but I knew I couldn't leave her at the side of the road. I ended up taking her to my apartment. It was small and cluttered, but it was safe. I made her some tea, hoping to calm her shattered nerves. As she sipped the warm beverage, she told me her story. Her name was Sarah, and she had been lured to the house by a classified ad for a live-in caregiver. The old man who lived there had seemed harmless enough at first, but his demeanor changed after she moved in. He became possessive, controlling, and spoke of being trapped by a malevolent entity residing in the mirror. She had tried to leave, but he had locked her in the room. She had been trapped for days, her only solace the hope that someone would hear her screams. As Sarah spoke, I felt a chill run down my spine. Her story confirmed my worst fears. The entity in the mirror was real, and it was hungry for freedom. We sat in silence for a while, the weight of the night's events heavy between us. The storm raged outside, a fitting soundtrack to our unease. I didn't know what to believe anymore. My world, once grounded in logic and reason, had been shattered. "We need to go to the police," I finally said, breaking the silence. Sarah shook her head. "They'll never believe us. They'll think we're crazy." I knew she was right. Who would believe our story about a haunted mirror and a desperate entity? We were on our own. The next morning, I drove Sarah back to the mansion. The storm had passed, leaving behind a world washed clean. The house, bathed in the morning sunlight, seemed almost peaceful, almost. We searched for the old man, but he was gone. The only sign of him was a handwritten note left on the kitchen table. "He's free now," the note read, "and I am going to join him." Sarah gasped and covered her mouth with her hand. We both knew what it meant. The entity had claimed its victim. We left the house that day, forever changed by our experience. The events of that night left an indelible mark on our souls, a constant reminder of the darkness that lurks beneath the surface of our world. I never went back to Tony's Pizza Pies. The thought of delivering pizzas, of stepping foot in another stranger's home, filled me with dread. The mundane routine of my old life was gone, replaced by a constant state of hypervigilance. I still see Sarah occasionally. We don't talk about that night, but the shared trauma binds us together. We both know that some things can't be unseen, some experiences never forgotten. The world seems different now, the line between reality and nightmare blurred. Every creak in the night, every flicker of movement in the shadows, sends a shiver down my spine. I am left with a lingering sense of unease, a constant reminder that some doors, once opened, can never be closed. And sometimes in the dead of night, I can still hear his laughter echoing through the darkness, a chilling reminder of the entity trapped within the mirror, waiting, watching.